And so I thought a little bit about love and what's happening in my office. Remember we talked last time I was here about the fact that I'm a couples therapist. This is what I do. I work with couples every day who are trying to work on their relationships. There's no part of them when they were first walking down the aisle as a married couple, or when they first fell in love, that thought that they would be in a couples therapist's office, struggling, trying to figure out how to stay married or how to stay connected. That's the reality. Nobody intends to get there. So falling in love is easy, right? Knowing that an avocado is good for you is easy. Knowing how to peel it and use it appropriately and not cut your fingers off trying to get the pit out, trying to stay in a relationship that's healthy is much harder. And sometimes we have to turn for other information like YouTube to try to get more data. And what I want to encourage you all to do, because you're here at GPS, so I know you know a lot about learning, I want you to spend the rest of your lives committed to trying to learn more about yourselves in healthy relationships. You're not supposed to know that. I don't know it all. I study this stuff all the time, and I've got to spend the rest of my life learning about healthy relationships. You're not supposed to know how to do this. That's the myth, isn't it? We were talking before you all came in. I was talking to 3 young ladies over here, and we were talking about the difference between falling in love, being infatuated, and being really in love, past that falling in love stage where you're just chemical soup, basically, at the time. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. But I want to be really clear with you that when you came to GPS, you didn't know where your classes were. You didn't know where to go. That didn't mean you weren't a good student, right? That just meant that you had some things to learn about where your classes were. You don't know the topic areas that you're going to be studying next year. You don't know them completely. Doesn't mean you're not a good student. It means you haven't learned them yet. And I think we have this really bizarre fantasy in our culture that if you pick the right person, it's going to be easy. If you pick the right person to be in a relationship with, it's going to be easy. And folks, that's just not true. That is just not true. It's not like buying a car where people say, I think I'm going to buy a car and I'm going to buy the right car because if I buy the right car, it's going to have less maintenance. Relationships aren't that way. So what I want to encourage you to do as we're talking today is to realize that 3 things need to happen for you to be in healthy relationships. The first one is for you to learn a lot about yourself. A lot about yourself. What you like, what you don't like, what's important to you, what makes you feel close to somebody, what makes you feel completely repelled from somebody. And we're going to have fun talking about that with the love languages in just a second. That's so much fun. The second thing you need to learn is how to learn about somebody else. What it is that makes other people feel cared for and loved and that you're interested in them. Frankly, I think this is one of the biggest problems in our culture. And I really want you to hear this because people ask me all the time, what is the biggest problem with marriage these days in long-term relationships? Why are we suffering so much? Why is the divorce rate so high? Why is domestic violence so high? Why are we having all these problems? And I typically say, I think we're a culture that's devoid of empathy. Empathy. How does it feel for you sitting with me today? How does it feel when we take a walk together, when you tell me that I hurt your feelings? Do I communicate with you that I care about you? All right? Relationships work when they have a lot of empathy in them. And that's something that a lot of people in our culture are not growing up knowing how to do, is have empathy. It's a learned skill. It's a learned skill. My favorite empathy story, this is fabulous, and I'm going to embarrass my 13-year-old who's here with us today, I think up in the booth. But when I have 2 girls, 13 and 10, and when the younger one was in preschool, she was, I think she was 3.5 or 4 years old, and I got a note home that she was bullying, which really surprised me because Alex was super shy. So I tried to figure out what was going on. Turned out she was creating games for only 2 people because she's really shy and she's really introverted and she just kind of didn't want to play with anybody else, and she had her best friend and she was leaving people out. And the teacher said that she was bullying. And so we had to have a big old talk about it, but I realized I wasn't getting through about how we need to include and love and, that other people can get their feelings hurt. So I had my elder daughter, Bennett, come in and talk to Alex. And it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. She pulled up a little chair next to her and she said, Alex, she said, I think Bennett was 6 at the time, she said, when you leave somebody out, the person who's left out starts to wonder, what's wrong with me? Why don't you like me? Why don't you want to play with me? Alex is 3.5. She never thought about it that way. But Bennett had felt it. And so she could describe that so beautifully to her. And it changed everything for Alex. I think it was one way that she learned about empathy. And I was so proud of them in that moment. We have to teach people empathy, and a lot of people don't have that. So we're going to talk about that too, how to love somebody else. The third thing I want people to know is a lot of the research on healthy relationships, and we talked a little bit about that last time. It's actually a hard science now, guys. We know what is happening in healthy relationships. All right, so as we're wrapping up, the reason that I thought of avocados, which is really just to kind of entertain you, was because they're complicated, right? And you're not supposed to know how to do them. There's a lot to learn about how to be in love relationships. There's a lot to learn. You all are at the very beginning, and that's what dating is. That's what these romantic love relationships are. They're places, you're not going to marry these boys, by the way. You know that, right? This is a place for you to just learn and have fun and enjoy the people you meet and learn a lot about yourself. Oh, do I like this kind of way of doing things? Okay, maybe I don't. This is your time to try out all different kinds of personalities and see who you get along with and who you feel close to and who you don't. And one day you'll pick someone that you want to be with, maybe. But I want you to be an educated consumer, like you will be with colleges, like you will be with your careers. This is one of those things that we just don't know well in this culture, that you actually have to study for this test. You actually do, and there is information out there that will help you do that. I want you to know your love language, what makes you feel loved, what makes the people around you feel loved, and know a lot about relationships. Today, what I hope you will do is let the people you love know that they matter. You know that's the number one predictor in relationships that they're going to continue, is that we let people know that they matter. The other part is that we show up when they're in distress. So when in doubt, let them know that they matter. I read a beautiful blog yesterday by a woman who said she thought that Valentine's Day should be changed into Generosity Day. Brene Brown, if you know who she is, she's wonderful. So it's just a thought that today is a day to be generous with your love, not just to your friends and your family, but also to yourself. I hope you've learned a little bit about yourself today in terms of how you love. You got some guesses? Okay, this is the last thing we're going to do as we're closing. I want you to come up with a word for yourself right now. This is the way I want to be with other people. One word that you come up with, and hold it in your head. A way that I want to be with other people today. Is it loving? Is it affectionate? Is it thoughtful? Is it, I want to be a good listener? So I just want to give us a second to hold that word in your head. I'm not going to tell you what to say. How I want to be on this day of love and generosity with other people today. What's your word? Just say it a few times in your head. I intend to be what? With people around me. All right, ladies, let's go put more love in the world. Have a good day.